Hello again, Steve here. Today I wanted to ask a little bit of a question, because maybe some of you have got some insights on this. What to do when you break up with God? The reason I asked this question is because I was listening to a conversation today, and one guy in the conversation, his point was that one of the reasons why we see all this apparent nihilism and destructiveness going on in the world is because people have abandoned God. They don't have some sort of internal guiding principle anymore. So they just go crazy. They're not even animals in a way. They're inhuman. I've heard that said before, that the opposite of human is not animal, it's inhuman. Because we're like really, really intelligent apes in a way, right? Who can be incredibly destructive, who can go on warpaths just psychotically against our fellow man, whereas not even animals animals don't even normally do that, right? So it's really quite crazy. So this guy's point was that, you know, he's turned to God because he doesn't see any other options. But my question is, okay, see, the relationship with God can be a tricky one, because if we fall out of a relationship, like we get divorced, in other words, we leave it behind, God is dead essentially, right? Well, how do you get back together? I mean, it's not that easy to get back together with somebody who you've fallen out with. That can be almost insurmountable at times. And you could argue, a lot of people would argue, that a far more significant relationship is the one that people have with God. So how is that possible? I don't know how it's possible, because I certainly haven't been able to reconcile that. Although I think what happens is that even though we think we've fallen out, and we have fallen out, the getting back together with God is not really the same God that we fell out with. Now, I just hope to make this clear. Unlike human beings that we see, we recognize, and all sorts of things, God, our experience with God, I would say, is a subjective relationship as opposed to an objective relationship. And therefore, we meet the God of our making, if that makes any sense. I know that's heretical in some ways for some people, for sure. There's a saying, you know, man is made in the image and likeness of God. I would say that also God is made in the image and likeness of man's creative abilities. And so even people who call themselves whatever sect, their experience, their individual experience with their deity is uniquely different than the next guy, I would say. And so therefore, our relationship with a deity at teenage years versus 50s, 60s, 70s, or whatever, is going to be different. And therefore, I think that people can get back with God and have God be their guiding light, their guiding principle in life, even when they have fallen out and previously in their mind God was dead. So, and you know what? More and more I'm seeing the value of it, right? Because look at the world. Look at the world. Look at the world, and look at those parts that have God as their guiding principle, and look at those that don't. I know people are going to say, yeah, but if, you know, wars are fought over gods and stuff like that. True, at least on the surface of it. But that's an externalization of a caricature of God, I would say. The internal guidance and governance of virtue, which comes in the form of or through what people will say their God. True virtue, universal values, universal virtues, principles, ethics, morality, and so on. If that can be internalized and becomes the governor of an individual, and it is truly virtue, that is different than a bunch of warmongers saying our God's better than yours. That's just sports teams, as far as I can see. We have to learn, I think, how to govern ourselves through the help of powers that we really know not, but we know are accessible just from experience, right? Because we access creative powers all the time that we can't really point to as exactly where they came from. We can say, oh, it's a mind. What's behind that? We surely don't know what it is that truly animates life. So we can leave that in the unknown box. At the same time, get aboard the embracing of the guiding principles that we see and that we see as valuable and necessary for us to have a meaningful, happy life, and one where we get along with others, because that's what we really need right now, isn't it? Putting aside all of the differences that we want to conjure up and realize the similarities, that yearning within to live, to love, to be loved, to be recognized, and to prosper, and to be happy. Those are all so important to us. And if the experience of and the relationship with a deity helps us in that, well then, hey, who could argue with that? Steve here, getting great chatting. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye for now.